Coming up tonight, the Harmony has a beautiful day out in the sun. We take a look at the Boardwalk, and we find out a little bit about hanging off the back of a cruise ship. It's all coming up, so let's set sail. Welcome to day number 10 of the cruise view from on board the Harmony of the Seas as she makes her way home to the U.S. for the very first time. Today, our noontime location had us well beyond the midpoint of this voyage. We're located at about 27 degrees north by 58 degrees west, and that was about 500 miles away from Bermuda, which was the closest land at the time. So we are well off in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean at this point with nothing within range of quick access. It's about a day or so probably at least to get to Bermuda. So if we need anything, we're pretty much on our own or hoping for a passing by ship at this point. And as for the weather though, that certainly won't be a reason for us to need any help because we had an absolutely beautiful day today. We had a high of 79 degrees and sunny conditions. There were some clouds out there, but for the most part it was a nice sunny day all day long. We had roughly 15 knot winds, so very mild winds out there, nothing too severe or anything that really was causing disruptions or bothering anyone. It was an absolutely beautiful day to be up on deck, and a lot of people did take advantage of the pools and all the other outdoor activities today because of that. We did have a sunrise this morning at 7:56 a.m. and for once you could actually see the sunrise. I think that's possibly the first time this sailing, or one of the few times this sailing at least, that we've actually had a sunrise that you could see something more than just the sky getting a bit brighter. And tonight we had a sunset at 7:22 p.m. As for our compass summary today, most people took advantage of the outside and the compass was a little bit lighter today. There were a couple extra things that unfortunately got canceled. The first thing was at 3 o'clock today was supposed to be a Hideaway Heist show in the AquaTheater down at the end of the Boardwalk, and that was supposed to occur at both 3 o'clock and I believe 5 o'clock. So there was a second showing of it as well. And unfortunately the AquaTheater is still undergoing some maintenance due to the rain that we had for those several days. That maintenance ran over and they had to cancel today's shows and reschedule for 2 days from now. So tomorrow should be the first showing of Hideaway Heist, but for today at least they were canceled. But the AquaTheater didn't sit completely empty. They moved a couple things around and brought the Win a Free Cruise Bingo out to the AquaTheater so that people wouldn't be stuck sitting in the Royal Theater, but could be outside enjoying the nice weather and taking advantage of the empty AquaTheater at that time. Then at 5:15 tonight was another show, the secondary show for Studio B this time, and that is titled Ice Skate. That was the first showing of it this sailing. That was very interesting performance, very different than 1887, completely different, really. It's hard to find things that were similar in them beyond the fact that it actually used projections and technology. This is the show that is the secondary one for the theater. 1887 is kind of the prime show. It's the main featured show, and that's the one you get reservations for. Ice Skate just kind of shows up in the compass and first come, first serve gets access to it. No reservations even allowed for this one if you wanted them. And as a result, of course, that means it is the secondary show. You'd kind of expect it to be the milder, smaller show out of the two, and it was slightly shorter, I think 35 minutes compared to the 50 minutes of 1887, but it was still a great show. They used projections that I didn't expect. They used some interesting stuff. It was basically the way it's always been marketed by Nick Weir is that this is the show that allows the cast to show what they're capable of, to show off their abilities, their skills, everything they're not normally allowed to do because they have to follow a script and a set story for a show like 1887. Ice Skate's kind of their exhibition to go out and do what they feel like. So that's basically how Ice Skate worked. It focused very heavily around music, and it was a very modern, high-tech feeling show with Siri integrated throughout the show, kind of leading things as a narrator as the cast were each introduced and got to perform little performances to whatever style music they enjoy, along with several other little segments of performances. So it was a very interesting show, and it used a lot of the projections on the ice to do different things, like showing an iTunes-like interface with a playlist and playing music, as well as a couple other animations throughout the show, and even what looked like a text messaging string that was building up. So they actually used projections, which I didn't expect. I really did not expect a whole lot from this show. I expected it to pretty much be just the cast going out there and doing some routines to music, very similar to the original ice show that was on the Voyager of the Seas, in which it was an ice skating competition, and you had a couple judges that were placed in the front row in the stands, and then the cast members each went out and did little routines, and the judges scored them. A very simplistic one. That was kind of what I expected ice skate to be like, but it turned out to actually be a very well thought out and choreographed show. So if you're ever on Harmony of the Seas, make sure you go to the ice skate, because it is worth it. It's not as high-tech and fancy as 1887, but it is a very modern and youthful feeling show compared to that very beautiful and classical looking 1887 performance. So as I mentioned, that was at 5:15, and that lasted 35 minutes. That pretty much took me right up to 6 o'clock, which was dinner time, and today was another smart casual day. So kind of interesting. We've had several sailings where there was no such thing as smart casual. It was all the formal or casual, nothing in between, no semi-formal, no smart casual. We've now had several on the sailing, so it seems like at least for the transatlantic, smart casual's back. Will it be on the 7 nights? I'm not quite sure. We haven't seen it on the others, but hopefully smart casual is back at an actual thing again. But at the same time, I don't think they're really enforcing dress code, so pretty much you can dress how you want. For the most part, people seem to dress formal. Smart casual, I think fewer really acknowledge the existence of, even when Royal Caribbean actually acknowledges it. But as for today's menu in the dining room, it was another one of those kind of hybrid menus where you could find a couple things from the dynamic dining menus as well as the traditional ones. For my starter, I went with the caprese salad, and then for the entree, I went with the beef bourguignon, which was a very tasty dish. Nice shredded kind of beef with some sauce and vegetables and rice. My kind of dish. I always love, of course, any kind of shredded meat with a sauce on it, and that's pretty much exactly what this dish was. And then for my dessert, I went with the ivory chocolate mousse, as well as the creme brulee once again. So overall, it was a solid menu. There weren't too many choices for me on it. It was really lacking in stuff that matched my taste, but overall it was a decent meal anyway. And then immediately following dinner, 7:45, I went right back down to Studio B and saw a second showing of ice skate. First one, I sat right down in front like I did for 1887. And then the second one, I sat all the way up top so I could really get a nice view of the whole ice. But once again, I sat at the end for both. You really must sit at the end. Don't even bother sitting on the sides. It's a decent show, but it's certainly nowhere near as good when you're on the side as it is when you're on the end. And then following ice skate, it was time for the second big Royal Theater show. We've had 3 different headlines so far. Now we've got another of the actual Royal Theater shows. This time it was Columbus the Musical, which I believe is the first musical that Royal Caribbean has ever created itself. They've of course been doing their traditional little song and dance performance shows for as long as they've been around, and recently started to expand into new areas with things like the Broadway shows that they started on the Oasis class, and of course here we've got Grease. Well, normally on those ships you got the Broadway show and then it's matched with a more traditional show. In some cases it's a specialty one like the Earth Harp show on Sonic Odyssey on Quantum of the Seas, or some of the review shows like Sequins and Feathers on Ovation of the Seas, but overall it's usually paired with a more traditional show. On the Harmony though, we've essentially got two Broadway style shows. I was expecting it to be a very sort of strict Broadway style show, something very similar to Grease as a play would be. It was a little bit off from that. It wasn't truly a play. It was definitely a play at its core. It had a full script to it and everything else that you would expect from a play, but it had a lot more musical numbers, and it really kind of hybrided that concept of a Broadway play with the traditional Royal Caribbean show, something that you normally see with those secondary ones. If you remember the Quantum Sailing, that's kind of what I said about Sonic Odyssey. It blended all the sounds and really brought in the musical elements with a traditional Royal Caribbean show, and that's what this kind of was. It blended a Broadway play with a traditional Royal Caribbean production show, and it was an incredible show to see. Really though, the star of it, this is one of the few ones where the cast isn't the star. It was that ship itself, and even more surprising, not just the ship, but the giant video screen in the back of the theater. It is the largest screen of its resolution anywhere in the world, so it is a massive screen that covers the entire back wall of the theater, and not only does it cover the whole back wall, but it actually can raise right up out of the theater and reveal what's behind it. So that is a massive movable screen, and they use that heavily. It was used in Greece a little bit, but Columbus the musical is basically what happens when Royal Caribbean looks at what technology they have available to themselves and then make a show around it. Greece used all the technology, but it was the technology being layered onto an existing product. This was a product made around this technology, and they really took full advantage of that screen. It was really nicely integrated with the whole thing. They also had a lot of nice projection mapping on the sails of the ship, and of course the ship itself was an incredible technological feat, far better than I expected. It was one of those things where they've hyped it for a long time, mainly the size of it. I expected it to be huge. It actually was slightly smaller than I expected, but still massive. What was more amazing though was just how quickly that thing could spin, which we knew it could spin, but just how fast that moved I never expected. And even more impressive, not only could it spin and move forward and back, but the bow of it could expand and shrink depending on where it was on the stage, if it was in the back position where it could be expanded, or if it was up at the edge of the stage and it needed to be pulled back in order to not obstruct the view of the audience too much. And the aft of that boat could open up and reveal the inside of it. So it was a huge structure that was far more than just a simple boat on a stage and spinning around. It was really an incredible thing, and I'm sure it was a huge technological feat to just design and build something like that. And they've talked about it being big and how hard it was, but they never really went into that level of detail and all these other elements that really are involved in it beyond just a giant boat on a ship. And then the other thing about that boat, while it doesn't look big like I was expecting, it still was big. And in Abe Hughes' closing remarks for the play, he brought up the fact that Christopher Columbus's original boats that he discovered in America were actually only 3 feet different in size.
Well, I do want to say something about this ship. What do you think of this ship right here on the stage? This right here is the largest set piece on any cruise ship in the entire world. This ship weighs in at 5 tons in total. And if you want to talk about statistics, when you think about the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, this ship is only 4 feet shorter than the deck of the Nina. Let that sink in right there.
So they may look small on our stage, but that's because the ship that we're on is just that massive that it used to be you'd sail the Atlantic Ocean, cross from Europe to North America like we're doing now on a boat that fits on the stage as a prop in one of the plays on a ship like this. That is just how far things have come in all this time. And of course, it was an 8:45 show that I saw, but they also repeated at 11, so I went back and saw it a second time because it is that good. And like all the shows on board the Harmony of the Seas and most of Royal Caribbean's latest ships, they are worth seeing multiple times from different places, and especially here, you wouldn't normally expect it with the Royal Theater shows. Are pretty much traditional, sit anywhere, you're going to get a good view, but the way that boat spins around on the stage, you do get a slightly different view depending on which side, or if you're directly in middle, because you've got this massive boat, and that really is the thing the entire show revolves around. So you can get a slightly different feel if you go to multiple showings and sit in different places. So that lasted until just before midnight, and that pretty much wrapped up today for me, at least. Tonight we are once again changing the clocks. At 3 a.m. they'll once again fall back to 2 a.m. We'll get that bonus extra hour that we've gotten so many times during the sailing, and I believe after tonight there will be only one more of those left for us to get in order to get back on to East Coast time. So that's the compass summary for today, and moving on from there, our venue tour for today, we're going to take a look at the location I'm in right now, the Boardwalk. On the oasis of the seas, the Boardwalk brought a whole new idea to what's possible on a cruise ship that's been imitated by many, but never matched until the harmony of the seas. This large area divides the back third of the ship right to the sea, exposing interior balconies to the sky above and the ocean behind. As guests head aft on Deck 6, the second level of the Royal Promenade leads them to a familiar classic Royal Promenade welcome sign, rebranded to the Boardwalk. As they pass through the double glass doors, they enter a classic seaside boardwalk, complete with an amusement park that features a handcrafted carousel. Operating most of the day daily, this carousel is the perfect way for guests young and old to return to simpler times. On either side, you'll find somewhere for a bite to eat. The Boardwalk Doghouse offers a variety of complimentary hot dogs from various regions of the world, as well as a few sides. On the opposite corner, the ship's Starbucks has relocated outside with an actual venue that can be entered to purchase a variety of specialty coffees and snacks. Along with Starbucks, the logo shop has also been relocated to the Boardwalk to add some additional shopping to the area. Directly across the way, a second arcade is located on board to add some extra classic Boardwalk ambience. The aft half of the Boardwalk is dominated by a pair of specialty sit-down dining venues. The port side features Johnny Rockets, a Royal Caribbean favorite since the Voyager class in 1999. This cover-charged venue offers a variety of hamburgers along with other diner-style options. It's most known, though, for its milkshakes and smiley ketchup fries. Unique to the Oasis class and continued on the Harmony, this venue also offers a complimentary sit-down breakfast each morning. Directly across from it is Sabor. This Spanish-style venue features a variety of a la carte items to purchase, as well as its own bar that's been integrated into the venue rather than left as a standalone bar in the center of the boardwalk like on its sisters. This is because the center of the boardwalk features the end of the Ultimate Abyss dry slide. After sliding down 10 decks, guests are left off right in the middle of the boardwalk. They can then return their mats on the starboard side, as well as view the photos taken of them as they exited the slide. The port side features the Lucky Climber play area, giving the younger guests somewhere to play. Reaching the end of the boardwalk, guests have an incredible view of the 600-guest AquaTheater with the ocean beyond. This massive outdoor theater features a pair of shows, Fine Line, Hideaway Heist, that both take advantage of the latest theater technologies with high-tech lighting, projections, a powerful sound system, and even a cutting-edge 3D aerial rig. Of course, being an AquaTheater, its deep pool with a movable floor and the 50-foot high dive will always be the highlight of the venue. When not being used for production shows, the AquaTheater can be used to hold events like information sessions or bingo, as well as for outdoor movies at night, or even just a place to sit and hang out. Towering over the theater on either side is a pair of 43-foot tall rock climbing walls, offering expansive views of the seas for anyone that can make it to the top. When the weather turns bad though, you can still appreciate the view from the boardwalk by visiting Dazzles. This 2-deck high lounge features expansive views out over the boardwalk and to see while offering a bar and a band to enjoy in the evenings. While the boardwalk may not be the center of attention or the most traveled area on board, it is the most visible with a design that completely changes the shape of the aft of this ship and makes it something unique that cannot be missed from anywhere.
Good day everyone, welcome to Harmony of the Seas. Right now you're in the boardwalk, which is right in the back part of the ship, and in this neighborhood we have one of the best restaurants on board, Sabor. It's a Mexican cuisine, contemporary Mexican cuisine with a casual classic service. This place is very famous for their margarita. We have 3 different kinds of margarita. The best part of this place is we have a guacamole trolley where the wait staff will prepare guacamole fresh in front of you with all the homemade condiments, and you can ask the waiter to make it spicy, less spicy as per the taste you like. And all the menus in here, it's individually priced. Alright, so next time when you are coming to Harmony of the Seas, please do visit us in the boardwalk on deck number 6 in Sabor, and please enjoy this restaurant, and it will be one of your memories for your cruise. Thank you.
So the boardwalk is obviously one of the 2 big new additions to the Oasis class, and of course carried on to the Harmony of the Seas. And the nice thing about it on the Harmony of the Seas, and it's likely true now on Oasis and Allure because they've all undergone an evolution. Last time I was on here, this place was dead all day long. That's no longer the case with the Harmony of the Seas. Part of it has to do with the change to the entertainment lineup that they've done, and this is true of the other 2 ships. They now have more stuff going on during the day, things like balloon animals and face painting to help draw people out here all day long. And then they also use it as a bit of an entertainment venue with things like yoga classes held on the massive open spaces of the boardwalks. It is a giant open area just like the Royal Promenade, except it's less traveled because it leads to the AquaTheater, whereas the Royal Promenade and Central Park lead you from the front to the back of the ship. Here, if you walk to the end of the boardwalk, you're kind of just stuck. The only option you have is to go down to deck number 5 and go back on the jogging track. So it's a little bit harder to get traffic out here, but they've been doing a better job with all the extra activities they put out here. And also the addition of the Abyss helps, because all day long, people are up on the sports deck and riding that Abyss straight down here onto the boardwalk, and then of course they gotta walk back somewhere. So it's definitely a bit more travel than it was on the Oasis when I was there 7 years ago. And I'm sure as things evolve and as it goes to a normal 7-night sailing where they don't have to spread stuff out over so many days as much, it'll be even more busy in the boardwalk on every one of those sea days. So then, continuing with the boardwalk theme of today, we've got another interview. This time it is with one of the stars of the AquaTheater shows, The Fine Line and Hideaway Heist. It is one of the high divers, Jason. So today I'm joined by Jason, who is the high diver on board the Harmony of Seas. Thanks for joining me.
No problem.
So could you provide a little bit of a background on yourself?
Let's see, I was a gymnast first, and then I taught myself how to dive to start doing diving shows. Then I started doing trampoline, but mainly shows. Been doing shows for the last 25 years.
And what led you to join Royal Caribbean?
Actually, Sydney Brown led me to joining Royal Caribbean. We were working together in the House of Dancing Water. It's the world's largest water show in Macau, China. And she was telling us that this is what she did, and that they had a diving show on the ship. And we were like, wow, okay, I would like to try that.
So what was it like the very first time that you got on a ship like this and had to do a high dive?
In my career, I've done a lot of small pool dives and shallow pool dives, and the first time I looked down on the Allure at the high dive, it scared the crap out of me. It looks really small. But once I did the first one and saw that I would be safe, then it got less scary.
So when you're doing a dive, the ship's moving around you, how do you deal with some of that movement and ensuring that you're still going to hit your target?
The movement, I mean, they won't let us go up if the movement is too bad. You know, if the movement is really bad, the water's sloshing all out of the pool and it's just not safe to go. For me, as far as wind goes or the movement goes, my general rule of thumb is if I can stand without having to hold on to the platform, then I'm safe to jump. But if I have to hold on, I don't want to have to try and aim and make the jump happen. You know?
With a show like this, there's a lot of different elements in it. Would a show ever get canceled because the diving couldn't go, or if that happens, would other things already be a problem?
The show would never be canceled just because, like, the high dive can't go. We have lots of modifications to the show. You know, if it's too windy, we cut this, we do this instead. If it's too rocky, we cut this, we do this instead. So there's always a contingency plan. In the beginning, those contingency plans weren't there because we hadn't run across that bridge yet, but after doing the show for like 5 months now, we've got all our bases covered and we know what to do when something happens.
So a show like The Fine Line and the AquaTheater venue itself is a highly specialized setup. How do you go about rehearsing it before you get to the ship and when you don't have full access to a venue like this?
Well, we have an open dive once a week where we have an hour to come in and play around, and then before every show we warm up. We have an hour for warm up, hour and a half for warm up. So you're pretty much diving every day, or you know, you're doing something in the venue almost every day. So keeps you ready to go.
And then you're on a cruise ship, you get to travel all around the world. Do you ever go diving when we're in the protocols?
Every port we're at, we're looking for some place, something to jump off of. La Spezia so far has been our favorite place to go. We found a bridge that was almost 16 meters and we had like 5 meters of water. lots of tourists walking by, so we always had a crowd every time we dove, so that's a lot of fun. We look forward to going to like Cozumel and all the other places to see if we can find some local flavor over there to go dive.
So what has been the biggest dive that you've ever done?
The biggest dive I ever did was 115 feet. That was underneath the Prince's Palace in Monaco.
If you could dive anywhere, even somewhere fictional, what would your dream dive be?
Oh man, I don't know. I dove Acapulco. That's usually everybody's dream dive. One place that I dove that was really cool was the cenote in Cozumel, and that would be another cool one to dive again, because it's just a really nice experience to dive there.
Yeah. So now, stepping back to the fine line, you're a diver, you get to do the high dives, but you're also throughout the show, including the last scene, which is my personal favorite, where the cast is kind of feuding with the theater itself, who takes on its own entity. What is that scene like?
Well, that scene's called the Haka, and it was a lot of work for the divers, you know, to learn the choreography. You know, we're very graceful when it comes to diving, but when it comes to learning dancing and doing choreography, we all have 2 left feet. So for me, that was the biggest challenge of the whole creation process, learning that. But once you learned it, it's a great accomplishment to be able to do something like that. It's one of the best parts in the show.
Yeah, the work definitely paid off, because it is the coolest part. It's the one part where you really see the cast.
Second coolest part.
Okay, second after the high dive itself. It's the one scene where you really see the cast take on a personality and the theater itself sort of come to life. So, is there any other scene that you kind of wish you could expand or add an extra element to?
It's one of those shows that you have to see the show more than once to really appreciate everything that's in the show.
Yeah, I'm up to 3, so that is true. All right. So, is there anything that you'd like to say to the viewers?
Come and check us out. Don't miss the Hideaway Heist, because that's my personal favorite.
Yeah, and that is coming up in the next couple days.
Right on.
Oh, great. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And once again, I want to thank Jason for taking time to talk to me. We, of course, did not get to see Hideaway Heist today. It was delayed because of the maintenance work going on, but hopefully tomorrow everything will work out and we'll finally get to see that show for the first time on this sailing. And it is scheduled for 4 times over the next 2 days. So there's several opportunities to see that one, just like the first one and all the other shows on this ship. I think almost every show has had 4 showings, with the exception of the headliners, who each only had 3 showings. And of course the comedian, who due to the very small venue of the attic, has had about 2 showings nearly every day of this sailing, so he's probably going to near about 20 showings when this sailing is over. So there are plenty of opportunities to go see these shows. Some of these venues are smaller, so obviously 4 shows in the World Promenade and 4 shows in Studio B or the AquaTheater are not the same number of people that can attend, but there are several times to try and fit it into your schedule, and you do want to make sure you see every one of these shows, because as I've mentioned so many times already, they're all incredible, and each one has been very distinct a show. Even within a particular venue or cast, they've had very distinctive personalities to every one of these shows. So that about does it for today's episode. Tomorrow, like it's been every day so far, we are once again at sea. So be sure to come back and check that out, all the different things that are going on tomorrow, including hopefully Hideaway Heist. But for now, I'm Picone. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the links.